a quick disclaimer about these. None of what you all are seeing is actually official from Splinterlands.
Battle Pass is my second most anticipated thing in this entire series of stuff. And the reason why is because the Battle Pass solves a lot of player issues and company issues with one big, neat bow and bundle. And one of the biggest things that a Battle Pass brings to a game is the elbow grease and polish of a mainstream gaming title, right? Like, if we're focusing on gaming experience, it used to be that loot boxes were the previous version, right? Like, it was like, first you paid for DLC, but then DLC went away and it became loot boxes. Now loot boxes have gone away, and you go to any large AAA title or even non-AAA title, and they're offering battle passes because they've shown to not only increase player retention, how often players are coming back and interacting. It's a way to teach players to interact with other parts of the game that they normally don't play on. There's all kinds of things that you're able to do with this. If you're not familiar, battle passes, like, essentially you set like things that need to be done within the game on a daily and weekly basis, right? And every time you complete those, you get X number of points to level up this like meter. And every single time you get to a new level of it, you unlock a reward. And it's not like rewards in the sense of like, hey, you do this, and you get constant SPS and DEC. A lot of this stuff is things to build an account, right? Like, you want to have one account that has all your stuff, to where, like, in Fortnite, if I do have multiple accounts, which you're not really supposed to, but even if you do, you're not buying a battle pass on all of them, which means, like, when you go to your alt account, it doesn't have the cool Fortnite skins or the cool, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have the costumes and all the different things unlocked. You have that on your main account, and then the other one's kind of like just sits there and you use it for whatever. In Splinterlands specifically, I see doing a lot of things like soulbound reward cards. Like, instead of giving away multiple copies of a card, it automatically levels up. So, like, you get it as a like a garbage tier on level 5 of the battle pass. When you hit level 25, it automatically upgrades itself without needing copies to be like the uncommon version. And then you get all the way to the very end of it, and it's a legendary, you know what I mean, like, card that you get just for completing the battle pass. Other things that could be in there: in-game wallpapers, skins, titles, ECR bonuses, unique season stat trackers, voice lines, the ability to display your completed battle pass. Like, there's literally so many things. Hold on, my cat's screaming. I apologize.
I thought that was hilarious. We'll bring him back on when he's set here.
Yeah.
She'll come into the office, and then after she gets in, just screams that she wants back out. And it's like, why did you come in here?
Just checking.
But yeah, exactly. But there's you do things that are like account bound and make it to where the levels are things that you should already be completing while just regularly playing, right? So there'll be things like, play Earth Splinter 10 times. Okay, that, if you're just regularly playing, you can do things like that. But you also include things for people to do that they normally wouldn't. Like, hey, go to the market and rent 5 cards, right? So people that are already doing that, they'll complete it. But then there's other people who don't even know that there's a rental market,
right,
or they don't get how it works, or they've done it once. They're like, whatever. Now they're like incentivized. They're like, oh, I really want that cool skin from this card. I'm just going to go rent some cards. And it teaches them how to do it. You do things like, enter a brawl, or
win 3 tournament battles.
Yeah, whatever it is. And it's like, you give them such a large list that even if they don't do every single thing, they still can level the battle pass up, right? So it's like, oh, I'm not in a guild, so I can't do brawl battles. Okay, well, there's so many other things that you can do. And there's even mechanics to where, like, in AAA titles, to where, like, oh, it's 3 days before the end of the season and the battle pass ends. I need a whole bunch of levels. I can just buy, using usually in-game currency, levels for the battle pass. Here, we just do it so it's like, oh, you burn X amount of DEC, you're able to level up the battle pass. So people who don't want to do any of the battle pass stuff, right? They just want to pay straight to go to the top. You can do that, but it's like, it gets excessively more expensive to do it than just playing every single day for it. I think the other big thing too that like I would advise people to remember with this is that this is something that can be monetized on the mobile game, right? Like it's a one-time purchase so that it's not as bad. The price would be more expensive on mobile because you have to account for Apple or Google taking their cut or whatever. But like with that factored in, you still can make the one purchase on mobile and be rewarding people so that they have to then earn these rewards. But the way to claim them is they have to get on the desktop website itself. Like I think that's how you do it to convert people back from the mobile into the like larger
Nice, yeah,
ecosystem.
to get them to try it out.
That does make it hard for some people in foreign countries that don't really have access to desktops in general.
Yeah, and I think it's like you also have to. We always talk internally about how like the usage on the mobile app is only like 10% of the player base, but then it's always chicken and the egg. And it's like, well, is it because the mobile experience is so bad? Like we can't attract anybody to play on there, or is it they don't want to?
Now, if the mobile experience wasn't like the Battle Pass was its own app, right?
Yeah.
And in that you could do non-game things like go to the card market, manager, rent cards, buy cards, sell cards. You could, or manage things on there, and you buy your assets. Fill up your bags on desktop, and then go on there just to execute different things that could account for your battle pass or towards your battle pass, but aren't necessarily battling.
Yeah,
and I mean, there's a lot of management that goes into playing Splinterlands.
There is, and the dirty secret that always needs to be acknowledged about battle passes is that it is trying to get you hooked, right? Like it is heroin in the sense that because there's a free track and a paid track. The free track all players can benefit from, but the rewards are like once every 4 levels or 5 levels, as opposed to the paid one, which is every single level you get something. You know what I mean?
And in most paid battle passes, you get some type of in-game currency.
Yes.
So it is free if you finish it.
And you get just enough to rebuy the battle pass the next time it comes around. So it's like studies have shown that like once somebody has bought a battle pass, they're more likely to purchase it on an ongoing basis moving forward. So it's like you give people the free one and they see all this stuff that they could be getting that's in the paid one. And they're just like, I just got to do it. I have to do it to get all the stuff that I've already unlocked. Boom. They're in the system. They sort of like always stay there. And I like speaking from an economics perspective, this is a small purchase fee that isn't a sale, right? Like it's consistently delivering value. And it's like one of the big reasons that I think Splinterlands runs into these boom bust cycles is that we rely on big pack sale. All these packs are selling. And then just one day it stops, you know what I mean? And then it just like holds. This is something that is consistent. That's always there, always able to bring in new players and provides like an undercurrent of revenue for the company so that they can count on this every season without having to like, oh, we need some revenue. Let's kick out a new reward card. You know what I mean?
Now, I will say about mobile gaming, I feel like it's a tough game in a lot of ways to play on a phone. Yes. I do understand that, there are some players that's their only option. But I do think it'd be important to at least have, I think there's a lot of people with iPads out there or tablets. And I think that's a much more usable mobile experience because that would be downloading an app, right? That would not be a desktop type approach, right? For a lot of those things.
Well, I mean, and I just want to say like, this would benefit mobile, but it's not going to revolutionize. You know what I mean? Like this is like a half step of a half step to make it a little bit more bearable so that we can show that there's like customers there and then go, hey, quit ignoring mobile. Like, I know you say that it's bad, but it's because.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was saying more about what you were saying about the internal talks and stuff was,
Personally, I think that the Battle Pass, in my humble opinion, is the number one thing that needs to get done on other than LAN, but like to help tournaments or to help the gameplay, because all of a sudden with it, what it does, all the things you just said. Provide steady income. It can provide incentives to keep people playing, not just, turn on their Archmage and let it play, but go in there and play and get things because they got to do it themselves. They can't get their bot to go and rent 3 cards or go and do these things. They've got to get in there and play around with themselves, and hopefully we'll get invigorated with the game again.
If I can address Ivan here, like, a lot of this stuff is not supposed to be competitive, right? Like, the majority of rewards in this are based around cool things that a human player would want to have, and have not because there's a value attached to them, right? Like, it shouldn't be. Yeah, it's a flex. It's like to have the maxed out, like, really cool skin that goes on cards and isn't available anymore because it was in the season 102 battle pass
and not transferable.
Like, then it's like, hey, look how long I've been around. Look at the stuff that I've done. How cool is that? And the cool part about that is, like, it's not meta defining. So that if you're somebody who's just like, I don't want to waste my time doing a battle pass. Okay, that's 100% fine. And you shouldn't be, like, impacted. Like, if I'm playing Apex Legends or, if I'm playing Apex Legends or League of Legends, I'm not at a disadvantage because I haven't completed a battle pass, right? Everything that I have is like music packs or wallpapers or skins or like maybe some in-game currency that's used to purchase other skins type stuff. But it's not like based around, other than maybe the soulbound reward cards. And those would have to be so non-impactful that it's more about like, I want to have this, as opposed to like, oh, this is the card that we balance modern around.
And maybe the free battle pass doesn't even have soulbound cards, and it doesn't have anything of value at all. That it's all so there wouldn't be a reason for bots to really hammer that.
They don't want a wallpaper.
Right, exactly. Like, where it's more of like that freemium type product that a lot of games did, where you get people hooked kind of on that free mode, and then there's a little stuff to entice them to cross over to put in a little, a couple bucks down every battle pass.
Yeah, and again, this is a pretty cheap thing. Like, we're looking at maybe like $10-15, and then on it, that's if you also, don't include, hey, I want to burn DEC to get extra levels or whatever like that. Like, in most games, they do it to where there's the free pass. You can just buy the battle pass and start at level 1 or like whatever level you're at, or you can buy the battle pass, get the premium track with an additional 25 levels built in from wherever you are. And it's like at a discounted rate of like, if it's normally, $5, well, you get 25 levels for $4. Like, it's just an extra, like, hey, I'm catching up late. Help me with the little boost type thing.
Right.
I mean, the one thing too I like about this is that it's every day. Like, once this goes into play, I love the draft mode tournaments, but again, that's once a week. And it could ramp up and be more often, but this right off the bat, once this is in place, this is in.
And this is supposed to turn people who like play once a month into once a week players, and once a week players into 2 times a week players, and then every other day players into everyday players. Like, it's for the people who are collectors. If you're not interested, again, like, don't do it. And that, I mean, that sounds like dismissive, but it's like, it's non-meta defining. So it literally doesn't impact or make your experience worse if you don't do it. It does to, you know what I mean? Like, if you're invested in it, you're like, no, I need to do this.
Yeah. And like, to Ian's point here, just by having this available, there are potential sinks, there are potential burns. I really like the idea of maybe integrating the NFTs on Splinter Talk. Like, that's a good tradable asset that someone could get, and everyone in the season would get it. So it wouldn't be relatively unique, but over time, those would become unique.
Exactly. And it's unique just because you had to be there to get it. You know what I mean?
It's like 2 years old, and it's, it has cool artwork and whatever it is on it. But Yeah, I mean, I really like this. I'm not a huge fan of soulbound stuff, and I think someone else said that in the chat too. But I definitely get it for this, as long as the payoff at the end is something good, like a title, season 1, episode 1 completion artist or whatever.
Yeah. I also think that you can do it to where, like, yes, the payoff has to be like big enough and whatnot, but I think that trying to have that ability of like something that nobody else has is very
flex, not value.
It's very FOMO-y, right? Like you're like, oh, I can't, because in Fortnite, when a battle pass skin is sort of being unlocked by everybody, because you'll join a Fortnite game and everybody's wearing it, right?
Yeah.
Like every single person has the banana guy costume, and if you're the one that doesn't have it, it doesn't make your game worse, but you're like, I gotta get it.
Yeah. or you want to be the first one to run around at Darth Vader. I remember that season. I don't know, the summer they had Darth Vader on Fortnite, and I was like, I'm buying the battle pass. I want Darth Vader.
Yes.
And then people were showing up with Darth Vader when I was at like level 18. I'm like, well, I need to put step on the gas here. And so I started playing every day. So, I mean, it works. The battle pass works. The theory, if it's done right, I mean, I think you're the guy to do it right. So this is the one, like I said, I'm most excited about. I think it could be potentially great. It's also something where it's a phenomenal way to integrate sponsors.
Yes.
So like GLS could be a sponsor for the whatever month they launch or whatever. And you get different in-game things that have a GLS spin on it or whatever, like you know what I'm saying? Like there's ways to integrate sponsors into Battle Pass to create an additional layer of revenue coming in, and then non-obtrusive marketing. So it's a background that has something in it. It's not something like an ad that pops up in the middle of your game.
And one last point to make on this, because I want to get to number 3, because proposal 3 is my number one. But like the other large thing with this is that we're able to make a Web 2 experience in our Web 3 game, right? Like gamers coming from mainstream gaming need to not be scared. And like when we throw a million different abbreviations and terms and things that people have to know, there's like such a huge information gap to get these people in. Well, if mainstream Web 2 gaming all does battle passes, when you talk to those gamers, they already know. You know what I mean? Like you go, oh, they have a battle pass. I get it. You know what I mean? Like there's no explaining on that. And I think the more things that we can kind of do to make those mainstream gamers feel comfortable coming here, and less about like extracting rewards and promising that you'll go to the moon and make $1 billion by playing this game, I think that's how you get like long-term healthy invested players, like emotionally invested, not money invested.
It's where Web3 is a true evolution of gaming. It's where you take the best components of Web 2 and then bring it to Web 3 and then later on the blockchain. And that's to this, like with NFTs, you have the ability, if they're soulbound NFTs, I don't know, but with an NFT, if you, let's say for 2023, if this started January 1st, just as an example, if you got every season reward that year, you could have the opportunity to burn those 4, 5, 6, 8 rewards into one that says, 2023 completionist or something. And then that's something that would take, that's just an extra level of flex that really doesn't cost the company anything to create, but it gives people an incentive to play and get, complete the battle pass every season that year. So then they can get the ultimate one for the year, which is some really cool stuff. I would even like to see Rooney components, where you can burn that component into your Rooney and it would have a unique component from that season. So
I just want to comment on this because I see this in a couple people putting similar stuff here. Again, this is not something that everyone has to take part of. If it's something that turns you off about this, that's okay. There's going to be other things as well. one thing though that I think is important to realize is like this is the type of thing that connects people to one account and builds up that one account, and it makes them more they're continuing to build this one account, which is part of the idea of this game. Is so not everything is supposed to be so easy to like just pass over to your alt account and it's the same situation. So if that's such a turnoff for you, soulbound cards that are non-meta breaking, then maybe battle pass isn't for you. But it's also one of those things that takes the value away from bots and other things that are just looking to looking at everything from a financial dollar sign situation. And this might just be something that attracts a different type of player than the types of players that we have here traditionally already.
And another point too is like I said at the top of this, I'm trying to be like the gameplay guy, right? There are people inside of the company who are so hyper focused on economy and like reward stuff and what can we do to bring value that allows people to trade, sell, and do all this kind of stuff. And it's like we can live in both worlds. You know what I mean? Like there are going to be other things coming that I have no idea about that are going to be like super good for bringing like monetary value to people. But I want to bring these other things so that it's not just pushed to like only economy stuff, which is what it feels like has happened a lot of times, is that we lose the gameplay side of it for just money side. And it's not that it's like, I'm not saying gameplay's better, but if we can find a world where both exist, I think that's when you're like
totally
happiest.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there, of all ages who have more than enough money that they need, and they don't mind dropping plenty of money on dumb stuff, things that a lot of us are like, I would never spend that much money on something, but other people will keep paying for that hint in Candy Crush or whatever. Like it's like you kind of have to have all these different honey fly catchers, whatever, however the term is.
Honeypots.
Honeypots is a classic. I don't know a term like
honey fly catcher is my new favorite one.
The squeaky mouse gets the cheese.
Hey, thanks a lot for watching this video. We appreciate it. Now, do yourself a favor. Click right there. Or right there.